Alright, now we are going to start Prince and the Pauper as today's discussion. So, in this one, The Prince and the Pauper, which is a novel, it is not very difficult, but you need to update your knowledge, especially because Old English is used in that one. That is called archaic language. What is that? Archaic language, which means the Shakespearean English. So that is different from today's modern English, right? So then you need to have a kind of a good idea about this archaic language, and you will become familiar with that one once we continue the discussion. And here, The Prince and the Pauper, let me talk a bit about the title of the novel. So the title itself, it has been given as The Prince and the Pauper. So what do you remember when we use the word the prince? The prince is very wealthy, rich, right? And he has all the facilities as well as people and everything, right? But when it comes to the pauper, pauper has nothing except their own body, right? They have nothing. They don't have facilities, they don't have money, they don't have people, they don't have good food, they don't have good beds to sleep, right? So then a lot of problematic conditions are there with the pauper. Now in this novel, we compare two social layers basically. Understand? Two layers of the society are discussed. What are those layers? Here. Okay. We have been talking about the novel. So when we basically talk about this novel, the topic itself suggests that it really is related to two layers of the society, right? So what are these two layers? One is the upper class, or we call it elite class, understand? Or affluent class, even the rich people, right? Even we can say aristocrats, right? Understand? So aristocrats කියලා කියන්නේ කාටද? රදල පන්ති කියන්නේ. අපි අදට ලංකාවේ දකින්න රදල පන්ති කියන්නේ. So other people, the other part is the paupers, third class working people, right? And we can say that they belong to the dregs of the society. Dregs කියලා කියන්නේ සමාජ පන්ති පහළම ඉන්න පීඩිත පන්ති, right? So that is called basically the dregs of the society. So when we talk about these two social layers, can you see, can there be two friends belonging to both of these classes? Do you have friends from the aristocratic class? Colombo, affluent class, rich people. Do you have friends? You don't have. What about that? And like professors, daughters, like that. Anjana, no. Right? Do you have some friends from ministers' families? No, you don't have, right? They are the rich affluent class, understand? So then when we talk about this, there is a greater difference between these two classes. අපිට පේනවා මේකේ විශාල වෙනසක් කියන්නේ අන්තරයක් කාල පරිණතයේ වලිකට මේකේ ලොකු අන්තරයක් තියෙනවා නේ වෙනසක් තියෙනවා. හරි. Now we will just talk about Mark Twain, right? So whenever we study about a piece of literature, we need to have a kind of an idea about what? We should have a kind of an idea about basically the writer, right? So who is the writer of this particular novel? Mark Twain. What do you know about Mark Twain? Are you aware of Mark Twain? No, haven't you read anything about Mark Twain? Have you ever read? Not yet. Have you ever read? No. Right. Now we will just discuss this one. Mark Twain was assumed the Samuel Langhorne Clements, 1835 to 1910. That is the duration in which he lived. Understand? Then he was born and grew up in the United States. Where was he born? He was born in United States in the state of Missouri, and beside the river Mississippi. Mississippi is a kind of a river which is in United States, and this person or Mark Twain he was born as well as brought up very close to this river. And Samuel's father died when he was only 12. Now you just think of Upaliginewala Madoddu, his mother also died when he was about 7 years old. So in the same way, Mark Twain's father died when he was about 7 years old. It is a kind of sad story, isn't that so, right? So it's a sad story. And when he was only 12 and he has to leave school to earn a living, he was extremely poor, understand?
Yes.
Now you understand this comes from his own biographical features. What do you mean by biography? Biography කියලා කියන්නේ ජීවිත කතාවට. ඒතර මෙයාගේ ජීවිත කතාවේ වෙච්ච දේවල් පදනම් කරගෙන තමයි මේක ගොඩනගිලා තියෙන්නේ. So he was very poor at that time. He had no money. So what did he do? He said goodbye to school and started working for money. And his youthful years were full of adventure. His youthful years, which means his young age, what did he do? It was full of adventure. He did this and that to get a lot of experiences.
Right like this.
Right. He traveled around the states first as a journeyman printer. So what was his first occupation? Journeyman printer, right? Then as a prospector in Nevada and set off to the South America to seek his fortune, but turned back to become a steamboat pilot on the Mississippi. He went to South America, but he has to come back to Mississippi again. The American Civil War put an end to steamboating. Somehow, because of American Civil Law, it was also stopped, right? Because he was a steamboat pilot, and that happened to be stopped. Then Clements joined the Confederate Army, but soon left that too. So he has done several jobs, right? One after the other. He does this one, that one, and then moving to the next one as well. Okay, that is how he has continued the early years of his careers. Then he returned to boating, and Clements joined the Confederate Army. Okay, we did that too as well. He returned to newspaper reporting, which he had tried earlier. So what is the job that he was interested in? As a journalist, right? Who is a journalist? Journalists are the people who writes articles to the newspapers, right? So journalism is a kind of a field in which we need good English as well. So you have seen some good presenters as well as media people. So they belong to the field called journalism. Right. Then earlier also he had started this, but it did not become a success, right? It did not become a success. But this time, now he became an extremely successful one. And Clements had started using the name Mark Twain. And during the Civil War, he used that name as a great travel and adventure writer. So he became an adventure writer as well. Then after that, the name was taken from a pilot's cry, meaning that the river was 2 fathoms deep, right? I will discuss the difficult terms later, but for the moment we are trying to generate the main idea of it, okay? Just to get the gist of it, or the main idea. Twain Clements had grown up in poverty and responded to prejudice and injustice. His famous works, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, it is another book that he has written, and it is also very popular. Then before we move on to the next one. Alright, then Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer is a very popular novel. It became very popular. And then Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. While providing tales about young children facing many vicissitudes of life, which means the difficulties, are also infused with humor. මොකක්ද humor කියලා කියන්නේ? humor දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලනවා බන්දු සමරසිංහගේ චිත්‍රපටයක්. හරිද? දැන් බන්දු සමරසිංහ දිහා බලනකොටම දැනෙනවා මොකක්ද? he has no here one teeth is missing, right? So whenever you see the face of that person, what do you feel? Some kind of, you feel like laughing, isn't that so? Right? That is called humor. Understand? Humorous. So then, humor. The Prince and the Pauper was first published in 1981. It, like the two earlier tales, is made a vehicle for conveying humor and social comment. It is full of humor as well as social comment, which is about the society. Thank me. Novel එකකයි short story එකකයි වෙනස මොකක්ද? What is the difference between a novel and a short story? A short story is very simple and easy to understand. But in a novel there are a lot of chapters, because it's very long, right? So many characters are there and there are subplots. මොනවා subplots කියලා කියන්නේ? දැන් අර short story එකක තියෙන එක කතාව. හැබැයි මේ novel එක ඒ කතාව ඇතුළත තව උප කතා ගොඩක් තියෙනවා. ඒක තේරෙන්න ඕනේ. හරි? That is why the novel seems to be a bit difficult. Then the experiences of Prince Edward Tudor and young Tom Canty, when they change places, have alternately shocked and amused generations of readers and demonstrated the genius of Mark Twain of his brave and inventive best. ඉතින් ඒකෙන් අදහස් කරන්නේ මෙයාව සලකනවා William Faulkner, a poet, says that Mark Twain is the greatest humorist of his time. එයා තමයි ගොඩක්ම මේ හාස්‍ය කියන පාදක කරගෙන කතා ඉදිරිපත් කරගෙන රචකයෙක් විදිහට හිටියේ කියන. easy නෙමෙයි. අපි දැන් පොඩ්ඩක් කියවලා බලමු මොකක්ද මේ Prince and the Pauper කියලා කියන්නේ. We will just read about what Prince and the Pauper is. What's the novel was first published in 1881 in Canada. Right, it was first published in Canada. Set in the 16th century. It is a tale of two boys who exchange their clothes one afternoon, and consequently their roles and situations in life as well. So what happens in this particular story? In this story, these two boys named Edward Tudor and Tom Canty, they exchange their clothes. For instance, let's see Akane and Sudas. Understand? So Akane is from the Buckingham Palace, Sudas is from Sri Lanka. Then Sudas go to Buckingham Palace, and so then they exchange their clothes, right? Then he comes to Sri Lanka and he is inside the Buckingham Palace, but not knowing what to be done there. Right? එයා දන්නේ මොනවද කරන්න ඕනද රජමාලිගය කියලා ඉර වෙලා ඉන්නේ. එහෙම කතාවක් තමයි මේකේ තියෙන්නේ. මුලින්ම කරන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ clothes මාරු කර ගන්නවා. රජ ඇඳුම දෙනවා. Tom Cantyගේ අර වැරහැලි ඇඳුම ඇඳ ගන්නවා. කවුද? Edward Tudor. Now you just think the prince wears these rags, poor rags, old rags, torn rags, ඉරිච්ච අපිට කියන කඩමලු කියලා කියන්නේ නේද? Right, they can right then there are also situations in life as well. Then ඇඳුම විතරක් නෙවෙයි වෙනස් වෙන්නේ. තව මොනවද වෙනස් වෙන්නේ? Their roles also are changed. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ roles එයාලගේ චරිතය එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒගොල්ලෝ මේ භූමිකාව සම්පූර්ණයෙන් වෙනස් වෙනවා. රජපාලිකාවේ ඉන්නේ වෙනම එඩ්වඩ් ටියුඩර් වුණාට ඇතුලේ ඉන්න ටොම් කැන්ටි. හරිද? ඔෆල් කෝට් එකේ ඉන්නේ කවුද? Edward Tudor ඉන්නේ. Edward Tudor දන්නේ මොකද කියලා කිසි දෙයක් දන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද එයා රජමාලිගයේ ඉච්චර ඇඩිටේෂන් වල වැඩික් වගේ. සෑ ඒක වලට හිතාගන්න පුළුවන්. Then next one is, but both have adventures, and finally the tension mounts. Again, both have adventures. It is an adventurous story. ඒගොල්ලෝ හිතන්නේ නැහැ මෙහෙම දෙයක් වෙයි කියලා, but ultimately it changes. And then they establish their true identities, one as the heir to the throne. heir කියලා කියන්නේ උරුමකාරය. throne කියලා කියන්නේ සිංහාසනය. සිංහාසනයේ උරුමකාරය විදියට එඩ්වඩ් ටියුඩර් නැවත බලයට එනවා එක තැනක. And the other is a pauper's son, who has risen to be the king's ward. Again, pauper's son කියලා කියන්නේ දුප්පතාගේ පුතා. ඒක කියන්නේ මෙතන Tom Canty කියන එක කියන්නේ. ඒතර එයා කවුද වෙන්නේ? Risen to the king's ward. මේ රජතුමාගේ ප්‍රධාන උපදේශක තනතුරක් ලබා දෙනවා කාටද? Tom Cantyද. ඒ කියන්නේ කාටද ලබා දෙන්නේ? අකේන්ට ලබා දෙනවා. මොකක්ද? ඉන්ස්ට්‍රක්ටර් පෝස්ට් එක මේ කතාව අන්තිම වෙනවා. Each boy has strong misconceptions of what other boys' life is like. ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් එඩ්වර්ඩ් ටියුඩර් ඉන්නේ කොහෙද? එයා ඉන්නේ පැලස් එකේ. එයාට අදහසක් තියනවද ටොම් කැන්ටිගේ ලයිෆ් එක ගැන? නෑ. එයා වැල්ලේ සෙල්ලම් කරලා තියනවද? ගඟේ නාලාදී දේවල් කරලා නෑ. ඇයි? He was born and brought up within the walls of this particular palace, and he was not allowed to go out and because he was the prince. But on the other hand, Tom Canty has never experienced these things inside the palace. He has never been to a palace and he has never worn such things, right? මෙයාට කඩුව එහෙම දානවා මෙයා පුරාණ කඩුව අරන් කොහොම තියලා බලනවා. හරි අපිට වීඩියෝ එක බලන්න පුළුවන්. You can watch that one. Again, if you unfortunately, I don't know if somehow or other, if you happen to be the prince, what would you do? Can't think of that. Right? Okay. Then next one is, and series of educational and entertaining adventures are played. දැන් මේක මොකද වැඩ වෙනවා තමයි ටොම් කැන්ටි දැන් පැලස් එකේ ඉන්නේ. එයාට එක දවසක ගෙනත් දෙනවා රෝස් වතුර එකක්. රෝස් වතුර ගෙනත් දෙනකොට කෑම කාලා මේ කට බේදගෙන තමයි දෙන්නේ. මොකද කරන්නේ? මේක බොනවා. දැන් එයා දන්නේ නැප්කින්ස් දාන්න මොකටද කියලා. හරිද? නැප්කින් එක දාපුවම මෙයා කියනවා මේක අයින් කරන්න මේකට ඉඳුල් වැඩි කියලා. Right? He has no idea about the palace, I mean the customs and rituals of the palace. So ඔයගොල්ලෝ තේරෙනවා ඒක සම්පූර්ණයෙන් වෙනස් කතාවක්. And entertaining adventures are placed out as the boys grow more comfortable both in their real and assumed role in life. You can assume role කියලා කියන්නේ Edward Tudor play කරන්න වෙනවා. Tom Canty role එක Tom Canty plays the role of Edward Tudor. ඒක සම්පූර්ණයෙන් වෙනස්. Right? Have you ever been to slums? Have you ever been to a slum? Okay. No. Slum එකට ගිහින් දෙනවා. Right. One day, if possible, I don't know. If you get a chance, just go and see how it is like, right? Right. Edward, what do you call this? Tom Canty lived in such a place. Yeah, right? Okay. We'll move on to the plot of it. Plot එක දෙමු. I will give you some time for you to read. මේක මම කියලා දෙන්න කලින් ඔයගොල්ලෝ කියවන්න ඕනේ. ඔයගොල්ලෝ කියවලා බලන්න තේරුම් ගන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා. Okay. Right. We are back again with the Prince and the Pauper, and we are to talk about the plot of the story. But before that, you should have a kind of an idea about what plot means. දැන් පුතේ මේ කතාවේ plot එක දැනගන්න කලින් මොකක්ද plot එක කියන්නේ කියලා දන්නවද? Do you have any idea what the plot means? Plot කියලා කියන්නේ series of incidents කියන එක. මොකද්ද? Series of incidents, which means it has a lot of incidents. Understand? These incidents are interconnected to one another. Understand? මේ තියෙන සිදුවීම් එකින් එකට සම්බන්ධ වෙලායි තියෙන්නේ. පැහැදිලිද? Is that clear? Right. So then, when we talk about the plot of it, we have to talk about Tom Canty first. Tom Canty is the main character. There are two main characters, right? So Tom Canty is one of them. Okay, now we are talking about the basics of it, basic characters. So characters are different from one another, and you should understand about their appearance, which means the outer figure, understand, as well as their qualities and their habits. Okay, so that is how you gain a kind of a picture. You have to have a good picture about these characters first, then only you can understand it well. So Tom Canty is a member of a family which belongs to the dregs of London society. Right. What do you know about London? London is the capital of England, and it is a very popular city, as well as so many popular things are there in London. Therefore, Tom Canty and his family lived in an area called Offal Court, okay, out of Pudding Lane. So it is a small area. It is something like a slum basically. You understand what slum means, okay? So then he was born in that the lower layer of the society. Understand? Then in offal court, so you better highlight that one. Offal court, keep it in your mind because it is very important, right? Offal court. Is it a very interesting term, offal court? No, it doesn't seem like very interesting, right? It seems to be a kind of an odd term, right? Odd term, offal court. And aspires to a better life. He is thinking of a better life. Why? Right now he doesn't have a better life. He has a very difficult, tough, hard to earn, right? Life. Understand? So it is very difficult for him to live there. Because he lived with thugs, ruffians, criminals, understand? So with such people he happened to live. Then encouraged by the local priest, and he met a person called Father Andrew. So that is the person who was introduced as Professor Andrew, right? So Father Andrew was a pensioner. Earlier he worked in the royal palace, but now he is a pensioner, and now he is in offal court getting his pension as well. But he tries to teach some morals, right, and languages, right, how to read and write to the boys and girls in offal court. He wants to civilize these people. Is that clear? He wants to civilize. Why? Because the area, all the people are not very educated, right? It is something like a slum. It has a different culture, so he wants to change even with the next generation. So that's why he is doing his great job. So then, Father Andrew taught him how to read and write. From whom he learned how to read and write? From Father Andrew. Father Andrew was the inspirational figure for his life. Understand? Then, loitering around the palace and gate one day. Now, Tom Canty is not just a boy. He likes experimenting new things. He likes novelty, and he goes here and there to see the things which are new to him. Understand? So he likes walking, which means he wanders, going here and there, but he doesn't have any aim. That is called loiter. Right? Again, once the school is over, do you loiter? No, but you have seen some of your friends and boys loiter in Kegol city, right? Some boys loiter, right? They go to the one end of the town and they walk to the other end of the town. Understand? So that is called loitering. What do you mean by loitering? What is that? Rastia, also we see people, right? Especially on Saturdays and Sundays when they are enjoying those classes, right? They are going here and there, right? They are also people like, the boys like Tom Canty, very curious, they are curious. That's why they want to see the world. That's why. Okay, we move on. That is the meaning of loiter. So somehow or other he came closer to the palace gate. Understand? The Tom Canty is very close to palace gate, and this is the first time he saw this particular palace with his own eyes. Understand? So he was amazed, and he was, surprised to see this kind of a thing because he has never seen. For instance, if you see the Buckingham Palace, you would be the same. Understand how big this is, like that. Then, and here he wants to see a prince as well. He had a greater desire, a burning desire to see a real prince. Understand? So what did he do? He, caught the iron bars and peeped like this. Understand? And it was seen by palace guard. And he saw Edward Tudor was walking on the balcony, right? And she was very happy. He was very contented, right? Because he could achieve his aim, right? He wanted to see a real prince. Somehow or other, he could see a real prince. Therefore, he was extremely happy. That is called, he was overwhelmed. Satuten pirila itirila කියන මොකක්ද කියන්නේ? Overwhelmed, right? If again finds a gem when you were walking to home, right? We are working, right? Then you would be overwhelmed, right? Again, doesn't know what should be done next. Okay, then next one is Tom is nearly caught and beaten by the royal guards. So what happens then? Royal guards, so the palace guards, they are very strict as well as very strong. They look like what? Statues, right? They look like statues. They are motionless statues. They never move their body, right? You see that these special force soldiers, even commandos, right? When they are standing, you can see how strong they are, right? Okay, they look like that. So then they caught Tom Canty and he was beaten by the royal guards. And this incident was seen by whom? Edward Tudor from the balcony. And then he came down and Edward asked royal guards to stop it. And he welcomed Tom Canty into the palace. So Tom Canty is like as he won a lottery. Understand? Because he was so happy. Then not only that, he was invited to his palace chamber. What do you mean by chamber? Chamber is a kind of a room, understand? So then that is called cabinet. Not the cabinet in which we put the things inside, right? Not that one. But it is called cabinet, not the cabinet in the parliament as well. That is also kind of a room, right? So this is called cabinet. It is owned by whom? It is owned by Edward Tudor, the Prince of the Wales. Then the two boys come to know each other's life and their uncanny resemblance, right? Which means they do not match together. Why? They are from distant areas, distant classes, right? From the upper class, the other one from the dregs of the society. So then now they are sharing things. And not only that, Edward Tudor was very happy listening to the stories presented by whom? Presented by Tom Canty. Why? Because Tom Canty explained and expressed everything he could enjoy when he was a pauper boy. Because he traveled here and there and played in the mud, fought with friends and running races and everything was told. But the thing is that Edward Tudor, did he have such kind of an experience? No. He has never experienced such thing. Why? Because he was born in the palace and he was not allowed to go out of that. He has never seen the outer world, right? He sees the world with the experiences he has got living in the palace, inside the palace. So he is like a whom? A kind of a prisoned bird, or we can say that he was he was limited to that particular place. Therefore he doesn't have a lot of experiences. So then he was very happy to experience the life of Tom Canty. Understand? So therefore he decided that we should exchange our clothes. You wear my clothes, I will wear your poor rags, and we will see that. So it is a very nice thing. Okay, then the two boys come to know each other's life and their uncanny resemblance, and they exchange their clothes presumably as they wish for a short time. But it was done for a short time. But short time went for a long time. You were unexpected. Then Edward leaves in a hurry before anyone sees the boys at this strange game. Edward මොකද කරේ? කවුරු හරි මේක දකී කියලා ඉක්මනට එතනින් පිටත් වෙලා ගියා. Edward snatches up an article of national importance. අන්න ඒකට ඔන්ලයින් කරා. ඔන්න ඕකෙන් තමයි සම්පූර්ණ කතාවම වෙනස් වෙන්නට පටන් ගන්නේ. So it is a point of changing the flow of the story, right? So you happen to have a very clear good idea about this. එයා අරගෙන යනවා එක දෙයක්. මේකට මොකක්ද කියන්නේ? Great seal කියලා කියනවා. What is that? Great seal. මේ great seal එක මොකද අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ? රාජකීය ආඥාවන් ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න මේ great seal එක ඕනේ නේද? විදුහල්පතිතුමාගේ seal එක නැතුව අපිට තරගයකටවත් යන්න බෑ නේද? අපිට ඒක ඕනේ ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න. අන්න ඒ වගේ තමයි ඒක තුර මොකක්ද? රාජකාරීමය භාවයේ රාජතාන්ත්‍රික භාවයේ සංකේතයක් විදිහට තමයි සලකන්නේ. Okay. Then and deposits it in a piece of a decorative armor and rushes out to punish the guards who have hurt Tom Canty. එයා මොකද කරන්නේ? ඒකත් අරගෙන rushes out ඉක්මනට පිටත් වෙලා යනවා. මොකටද යන්නේ? Punish the guards. Just think, what was he wearing? He was wearing the poor rags, something called kadamaru, right? But he is going to punish the palace guards. See what happens? How strange it is, because palace guards, they don't know that this is Edward Tudor. Only Edward Tudor and Tom Canty know that they have already exchanged their clothes, right? And only the readers like you, right? Okay, then next one is the guards fling out the prince, assuming him to be a pauper. Soon, fling out means he was blamed as well as he was thrown to the road. Then he has no entry to the palace. Palace entry no entry. Then soon he was caught by Tom Canty's father. පොරේ පිටට වරේ කියලා එළියට දාපුවා ටිකලා කෙනෙකුට අහු වෙනවා කාටද? John Canty. කවුද මේ John Canty කියන්නේ? John Canty is the father of Tom Canty. He is a ruffian, right? And he is a thug, right? And he is always drunkard, right? As well as he doesn't have any problem of killing people. Okay, so he is that kind of a person. So then Tom Canty's father grabbed him with his collar. අදගෙන යන්න මොකෙන්ද? collar එකෙන් තමයි අදගෙන යන්නේ. Right? Then subjected to abuse and brutality as farmer thinks that the prince is his son. Then John Canty මොකද හිතන්නේ? John Canty හිතන්නේ මේ ඉන්නේ Tom Canty කියලා හිතන්නේ. ඇත්තටම ඉන්නේ Edward Tudor නේ. So Edward Tudor is there, but he thinks that this is Tom Canty, right? So then he has some, the sharing of arguments also, because Edward Tudor has no idea that what kind of person is this, like that. So then somehow he collared this boy. Then after that, Tom left in the palace is seen as Prince Edward. ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් පැලස් එකේ දාලා ආපු ප්‍රින්ස් මේ Tom Canty කවුරු විදිහටද දකින්නේ? කාව විදිහටද දකින්නේ පැලස් එකේ? He was seen as Edward Tudor. දැන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙනවද මේක ඇවිල්ලා මොකද්ද? සබ්ප්ලොට්ස් ගොඩක් තියෙනවා නේද? උපකතන්දර ගොඩක් තියෙනවා. ඒ ඔක්කොම තේරෙන්න ඕන. Then he has to cope with court customs and manners. දැන් නම් හිතන්නකෝ ඔයගොල්ලෝම පැලස් එකට ගෙනිහින් දැම්මා කියලා පැලස් එකේ වගකීම් යුතු පුද්ගලයෙක් විදියට ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවද Buckingham Palace එකේ යන rules, rituals, customs? We don't have any idea නේද? Sometimes we will be wondered, sometimes we will be surprised to see the things, right? Okay, so then his fellow nobles and palace officials think the prince has developed a sickness which has resulted in a memory loss. මේ palace එකේ ඉන්න අය හිතනවා, the people in the palace and the nobles, right? Even the high ranking officials, they consider that Edward Tudor, or the Prince of the Wales, has a kind of a sickness. What is the name of that? Memory loss. Yeah, memory loss එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා ඒගොල්ලෝ හිතනවා, right? They repeatedly asking about the Great Seal, but he knows nothing about it. එයා දන්නේ නැහැ Great Seal එක ගැන. ඒගොල්ලෝ නැවත නැවත අහනවා Great Seal එක කොහොමද කියලා. But he has no idea why. Edward Tudor did not tell anything. Even he didn't utter a word about that. කිසිම වචනයක් කියවද මේ Great Seal එක ගැන? ඒක කොහොමද ගැන කිව්වේ නැහැ. ඇයි එයාට හොඳට බුද්ධිය පාවිච්චි, he used his intelligence and he took that one, right? He needs that in order to claim his ownership to the to be the heir of to the crown. අර ඔටුන්න ඒ කියන්නේ ලබා ගන්න යම් දවසක මේක අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා කියලා එයා දැනගෙන හිටියා. හැබැයි Tom Canty has no idea. ඒ නිසා මේගොල්ලෝ හිතනවා palace officials they think that Edward Tudor has a memory loss. Edward, then actual Edward, then however when Tom sits in judgment, his natural common sense reassures the nobles and other officials. Again, කාලයක් ගත වෙනකොට with the passage of time, what happened? He used his own common sense to get the things settled. Right? එයා ක්‍රමානුකූලව පොත් කියවලා සාබෝධය අරගෙන ඒ ටික මැනේජ් කරගන්න උත්සාහ කරා. Edward thrown into London streets in the meantime meets Miles Hendon. දැන් Edward Tudor ළමයි ලොකු challenges ගොඩකට මුහුණ දෙන්න වෙනවා. He faced a lot of challenges. Why? He still thinks that he is the Prince of Wales wearing poor rags. මෙයා හැම තැනම වලට ගිහලා කියනවා I am the Prince of Wales. Right? It is something like a joke, cracking a joke, ne? Right? So then that is so difficult to bear. ඉතින් මෙයා කතා කරන්නේ එයාගේ පෞරුෂයේ තියෙන රජ ගතිගුණ හැබැයි මෙයා ඇඳගෙන ඉන්නේ මොනවද? poor rags. Right? අර යාචකයෙක් අඳින වැරැල් තමයි ඇඳගෙන ඉන්නේ. හොඳයි. ඒ නිසා යාට ගොඩක් ගැටලු වලට මුහුණ දෙන්න වෙනවා. මෙයාට එතනදී හම්බ වෙනවා මම ওই කොටස් ටික ස්කිප් කරලා යන්නේ. Because we just get the main idea of it, right? Then we will talk about it chapter by chapter. Then what happens? He meets a person called Miles Hendon. උට හම්බ වෙනවා කවුද? එක පුද්ගලයෙක් ඌ තමයි Miles Hendon. Who is Miles Hendon? You better highlight that one. A soldier returning from war. යුද්ධයේ ඉඳලා ආපහු වෙන soldier. Miles does not believe Edward's story, but humors him and becomes his protector. Miles doesn't believe his story. He tells that story, okay? ඒ කියන්නේ Edward Tudor, ඒ කියන්නේ මේ Edward Tudor එයාගේ කතාව කියනවා මොකද උනේ කියලා කියනවා. But Miles doesn't believe that, but he helps anyway. He was very kind. So then, meanwhile, Henry VIII. What happens to Henry VIII? මේ අතරතුර Henry රජතුමාට මොකද වෙන්නේ? The king dies and රජතුමා මරනකොට රජකමට උරුම වෙන කෙනෙක් ඊළඟට පත් කරන්නට ඕනේ නේද? Right? We have to relocate another king instead of the dead king. Then meanwhile Henry VIII dies and Tom Canty is considered the next king. As Edward experiences the life of a pauper, he becomes aware of the stark class inequality in England. What does it mean? දැන් ළමයි Edward Tudor පැලස් එකේ හිටියට එයා දන්නවද මේ ලෝකේ බාහිර ලෝකේ මොනවද උනේ රජවරුන් කොහොමද මිනිස්සුන්ට සැලකුවේ කියලා? He doesn't know. Now he is in the society, right? He associates different people belonging to different ranges of the different layers of the society. විවිධ මට්ටමේ මිනිස්සුන් ඇසුරු කරනවා. එයා තේරුම් ගන්නවා මොකද්ද? The class distinction prevails in the country. ඒ කියන්නේ පන්ති ભેදය කියන එක දැඩි ලෙස තියෙනවා කියලා එයා තේරුම් ගන්නවා. ඒත් එක්ක මොකක්ද? inequality. Inequality කියලා කියන්නේ අසමානාත්මතාවය නේ. සමාන නැහැ. මොනවද සමාන නැත්තේ? සම්පත් බෙදී යාමේ අසමානතාවය. අද ලංකාවෙත් ඒක තියෙනවා. හරි? ඒක ගැටලුවක්. So he sees that problem. He realizes the harsh punitive nature of the English judicial system where people are burned at the stake, pilloried and flogged. මෙයා දකිනවා නීතිය සාධාරණ නැති බව. පැහැදිලිද? You know that the judicial system is not fair at all. Again, innocent people are killed because of minor things and less considerable things, right? Therefore, they were punished severely. Sometimes they haven't done anything wrong, but they were punished. He understands that most of the time the accused are convicted on films evidence and vow to reign with mercy when he regains his throne. Which means that he thinks that whenever when he becomes the king of the country, he wants to what? Change this one day. එයාට යම් දවසක මේ වෙනස් කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා හිතුණා. Edward unwisely declares that he is the king to a group of thieves. එක අවස්ථාවකදී in one situation, Edward says, I am the king. Why? Father is dead, so I am the king now. Right? Who knows? Only Edward and Tom Canty know that. Right? No one else. එතකොට මෙයාලා මොකද කරන්නේ? මෙයාව වාඩි කරනවා ළමයි ලොකු බැරල් එකක් උඩ. right? බැරල් එකක් උඩ වාඩි කරවලා මෙයාට මේ රාජ අභිෂේකයක් ලබා දෙනවා. Right? Understand? It is very interesting. We will learn about it later. Then they hold and they think he is mad. ඕන් හිතනවා මේ සුරු කණ්ඩායම හිතනවා කවුද? මේ Edward Tudor is mad, then they held a mock coronation. Coronation කියලා කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? පුටුඩු පැලැන්වීමේ උත්සවයක් බලන්න. After ඒක හරි ලස්සනයි. After a series of adventures, Edward interrupts the coronation where the Tom is about to crown the king. ඉතින් මේ අතරතුර ඔහුට යම් අවස්ථාවකදී අර Tom Cantyව රජ බවට පත් කරන අවස්ථාවට සම්බන්ධ වෙන්න හම්බ වෙනවා. Tom is eager to give up the throne. ඒ කියන්නේ Tom Canty likes to leave this position. එයා කැමති මේ තනතුරෙන් අයින් වෙන්න. ඇයි? Because does he deserve that? No, he doesn't deserve it, right? That's why. එයාට ඒකට අයිතියක් නැහැ. ඒ උත් ඒක දන්නවා. But the problem is nobles refuse to believe that the Pope is the real heir to the throne until he produced the great seal. හරි? ඒගොල්ලෝ හිතනවා මෙයා තමයි අන්නතුරු කියලා. හැබැයි great seal එක produce කරනකම් මොකුත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. That he hid before leaving the palace. එතකොට මෙයා මොකද කරන්නේ? අර great seal එක හංගලා තමයි යන්නේ. Tom declares that if anyone described it would have produced as it he has used to it to crack nuts. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒ great seal එක Tom Canty දුන්නොත් Tom Canty මොකක් කරයිද? crack nuts. අපි හිතමු රටකජු කියලා. රටකජු වල පොත්ත ඉවත් කරන්න අපි තලන්නේ අන්න ඒකට පාවිච්චි කරයි කියලා කියනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ යාට අයිඩියා එකක් තියෙනවද? He doesn't have any idea about this great seal. Right? He did not know what the great seal was. එයා දැනගෙන හිටියා මොකක්ද great seal කියලා කියනවා. He doesn't have any idea. The test of the great seal proves that beyond the doubt that Edward is the real king and heir. එකෙන් ඔප්පු වෙනවා මොකක්ද? Because of this test, everybody understood that he is the heir to the throne. Okay, then Edward and Tom change back to their original places. What happens? Okay, so we were discussing the final part of the story. Edward and Tom change back to their original places. What happens? Now, Edward became original Edward, the true heir to the crown, whereas Tom Canty became the Pope again. But he is not going to be the Pope, right? That is the lucky thing. Then, consequently, Miles Hendon is rewarded. Why? Miles Hendon is the person who helped Edward Tudor immensely, right? Because he was the shadow behind Edward Tudor all the time. When he was in trouble, Miles Hendon being a security guard, he was like a security guard. He saved this Edward Tudor in chaotic situations. Then his story forms a subplot. අන්න ඒකේ තියෙනවා subplot එකක්. මොකද්ද? Miles Hendon ගේ වෙනම කතාවක් තියෙනවා. හරි? He is betrayed and dispossessed by his brother, half with Miles. Edward has many adventures. Once Edward regains the rightful place, Miles is reinstated and marries a woman he loves. And Miles Hendon marries the woman he loves as well. Tom Canty is appointed as the king's ward and returns to his mother and sisters. That is the rough story. I think hope you all understood it to a certain extent, right? So what you have to do is you better read it several times at home also, right? And watch this one. And so as we have already started the chapter 1, we will discuss it next time. Now I just wanted to introduce you the rough sketch of the story, the plot summary, and we will continue further. So you can just read about the characterization, other characters, main characters, themes of the novel. අපොතේ චුට්ටක් විනාඩියක් අරගෙන බලමු මේ themes මොනවද කියලා. What are the themes? Differences in society. Differences. What do you mean by differences? වෙනස්කම් සමාජයේ. The gap between the rich and the poor. Value of truth. Truth wins in the end. Right? What is the reality? The truth, Edward Tudor's truth and Tom Canty's truth, it won at the end of the story. Weaknesses of the ruling classes. The way Henry VIII governed the country is not appreciated by Edward Tudor. He realized that it is not the right way to govern the country. Why? So many some people were helpless and they were, without a valid reason, they were killed, right? So then that is a kind of a disaster in a way. Humanity. People are human, whatever the differences they have, they share certain feelings and values. Education through experience. So we have to give a plus point to whom? Professor Andrew. Why? Professor Andrew is the one who gave education to Tom Canty, and because of education, he was enlightened. He achieved, the higher levels of, the intelligence, and he could reach, achieve his own dreams. He should make his dreams a reality, turn the dreams into a reality. Each one to his own. One should claim only, one should has right to. Right? Even Tom Canty had the chance that he could maintain his power. Right? Telling a lie, right? But he did not do that. Why? Because it is not the position he deserves. It should be given to Edward Tudor. Right? He is the rightful person for the crown. That's why. So then I think now you understand the basic things about the story, and there are some, the literary devices as well as, the techniques, suspense, climax, humor. We will further discuss, and but you better try to compare the things in this story with today's society. Okay, so then that is the end of today's session. We will be meeting next Thursday as usual at about